I just want to reiterate how incredibly proud and honored Chandra and I are to partner with our Mixed Race Stories, to partner with the Critical Mixed Race Studies Conference. We are so glad that they, yes. We feel like it's such an important partnership to show our storytellers that there is a really important role for critical study of history and the scholarly work that many of you do, as well as I know that the scholars very much appreciate the arts and cultural programming, so we think it's a wonderful partnership, so thank you. Okay, and now I am so pleased to present Dr. Zélie Asava. She is the Joint Program Director of Video and Film at Dundalk Institute of Technology in Ireland. She also teaches at the University College in Dublin. She's the author of The Black Irish on Screen, representing Black and mixed race Irish identities on film and TV. And there are books for purchase, or you can sign up for sales out on the table just outside of here. So please support her by purchasing the book and sharing it with your students. And so then I'm going to hand it over to her because I know she's got a wonderful keynote for us this evening. So thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I'm delighted to be here and thank you for coming to hear me speak. I'd like to offer my sincere thanks to Fanchen Cox, to Giovanni and Laura Kina for their outstanding support, as well as Camilla Fayas, Chandra Prudup, DePaul University, and all the CMRS and Mixed Race organisers. It's a real pleasure to be here and to share ideas with scholars, artists, and others interested in critically engaging with mixed race studies and the arts. It's been a fascinating conference so far, with so many stimulating papers and films, and I look forward to more stimulating discussions and illuminating discussions tomorrow. I've got a lot to say on the subject of mixed race representations in Irish cinema, so this is really just an overview of a lot of material which you will find in the book and in my other work. I've also included some quotes on slides which I won't go into detail, so feel free to engage with them or not as you see fit. But before I begin to expand on the practice of filmic storytelling about the mixed experience in Ireland, I thought I might share some of my own story with you. I was born in Dublin to Irish and Kenyan parents and raised in London. In the late 90s, I moved back to Ireland at a time of an emerging economic boom known as the Celtic Tiger. And as a result, for the first time in Ireland's modern history, in the early 2000s, the country shifted from being a country shaped by emigration to one being transformed by immigration. My academic work had been centered on, and still is to some extent, mixed race representations in American, French, and African cinemas, particularly Francophone West African cinemas. But as I saw representations of Black and mixed race characters increase in Irish screen culture, and here are some examples from Irish television, it became clear to me that the study of contemporary Irish cinematic and televisual approaches to representing the New Ireland and its formulations of race and racism was a rich area demanding academic attention. So today I'd like to convey to you some of the key films and theoretical concepts which are central to my understanding of mixed race representations on the Irish screen. In 2009, Ireland had the highest birth rate in Europe, with almost 24% of births attributed to the so-called New Irish. By 2013, 17% of the nation was foreign-born. 2013 also saw a plethora of Irish films exploring the interstices of identity, borderlands, and cross-cultural communications in the Irish space. Paula Keogh's An Dubh Ina Geal, Assimilation, looked at the Irish Aborigines of Australia. Joe Lawler and Christine Malloy's film Mr. John positioned the Irishman within a transnational interracial family in Singapore. Donal O'Callaghan's documentary Aisling Gyal, Bright Vision, followed the life of a young mixed-race pupil of sean-nós, or traditional Gaelic singing, in the Gaelic-speaking region of Connemara in the west of Ireland. The Boersma brothers' film Milo utilised the racial narrative of passing to illuminate issues of disability and discrimination, centralising an Irish family who were also Dutch-Romanian. And Zambian character Amma's storyline on popular Irish TV soap Fair City a role played by mixed-race Irish actress Donna Nicolaisen, who you saw on the previous slide, examined the position of illegal immigrants in Dublin and the challenges of blending distinctly different cultural values. As John Brannigan, Fintan O'Toole, Brian Fanning and others note, there is no genuine newness in the so-called New Irish, as Ireland has a history of cultural and ethnic heterogeneity. But as O'Toole observes, quote, understanding globalization in the Irish context is as much a task of remembrance as it is of encountering the new. My work aims to connect the dislocated continuity of racial discourses in Ireland and highlights the need to break down essentialist conceptualizations of Irishness by asserting its diversity, non-fixity, and instability. As racial representations on screen, particularly in Irish cinema, tend to be focused on the black-white dichotomy and mixed characters who are of Afro-Caribbean and European heritage, my work reflects this by examining the codes of these dominant screen representations. Black Irish is a complicated term. It's an umbrella term used in academia and in society to describe non-whites in Ireland, and so I've used it as a title to cover both black and mixed race characters, although I clearly distinguish between both in the book. Black Irish is very loaded and has multiple meanings. It's been used to describe the alleged descendants of the Spanish Armada in Ireland. It is also a derogatory term for Protestants in Northern Ireland. It's a term used to refer to the historical and political exclusion of white Irish people from imperial concepts of whiteness. And it's used to describe Irish people of African heritage. Following Martin McLuhan's work, and you can see a poster here for a Nigerian-born Irish writer-director for theatre, Dr. Bizzy Adigun, my work seeks to problematize concepts of Irishness. In 1976, RIARC, a TV production company run by the Irish clergy, whose work was commissioned by the state broadcaster RTE, produced The Black Irish, a documentary on mixed-race people in Kinsale, Montserrat. As with the title of my book, the film acknowledges the colonial history of the term Black Irish and repurposes it as a label for those who are both Afro-Caribbean and Irish. Known as the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean, Montserrat, the space of Montserrat is defined here as Irish in its traditions, names, accents, and people, and apart from Ireland, it remains the only country in the world where St. Patrick's Day is a national holiday. The programme's narrator declares that given their intimate links, quote, perhaps the white Irish of Ireland and America today have something to learn from the black Irish of Montserrat. However, this documentary is all too quick to collapse colonial experiences without considering the fact that in the Caribbean space, Irish men arrived as both indentured servants and slave masters, and that part of the reason that so many locals have Irish names is that they were named after their owners. Kinsale in Ireland's County Cork is the setting for Tara Flynn's short film Racist B&B, a visual skit made in response to racist abuse suffered by her African-American husband in her hometown of Kinsale. It's available on YouTube. The piece examines casual racism and the way that it is covered over by inept attempts at political correctness. So here the motel's owner refers to multicultural rather than brown bread, and coloured pudding rather than black. Questions to visitors over the phone regarding their rhythmic talents and ability to tan are used to distinguish white from non-white potential visitors. In one scene she says to the black man approaching the B&B, "Go on back to Africa now," to which he replies, "I'm from LA, I'm here for the gathering." This diasporic reference leads us on to On Dubh in a Gal, Assimilation, which you saw on an earlier slide, another film from 2013, which since RIARC's film is one of few to illuminate the non-white diaspora, Irish diaspora. In this film, the Aboriginal Irish of Australia are multiply represented as victims of colonial practice, as members of the establishment, and as part of the lost generation, kidnapped and raised by missionaries, many of them Irish, under the Keep Australia White policies. Both films serve as apt critiques of the exclusion of the Black Irish, Obama's accepted, from the marketing campaigns promoting The Gathering, which was a 2013 nationwide event to stimulate tourism to Ireland. Mixed race and black actors have featured in many Irish fiction films and television programs, particularly since the greater influx of migrants from the 1990s on. But they are often associated with urban ills, and stereotypically cast as lone, troublesome characters, prostitutes, single mothers, rappers, and pimps. They are also usually cast as foreigners, mostly illegal, rather than citizens, confirming Frantz Fanon's fear that black agents are forever, quote, overdetermined from without, end quote, according to negative racial stereotyping. They are often also used as vehicles to express the otherness of white Irish men. For example, in The God, The Crying Game, and other films, a black or mixed-race character is paired with a white male in a semiotic mirroring that visually conveys the exclusion and alienation felt by the white Irish character, who is thus constructed as liminal and oppressed. Ireland has produced a series of high-profile mixed-race stars, including the musician Phil Lynott, actress Ruth Negga, zoologist and TV presenter Liz Bonin, singer-actress Samantha Mumba, pop star Siva Kneswaran, rugby player Stephen Zebo, footballer Paul McGrath, among others. Yet in screen culture as in the socio-political arena, Ireland often remains represented through a series of tropes that exclude its non-white citizens. O'Toole observes that the migrant had a doubling effect on boomtime Ireland, as a signifier of the old and the new, the foreigner within. The Black Irish raised the double reality of Ireland as a nation demanding rights for undocumented workers in America and the forgotten Irish labourers in England, while also attempting to be a first world competitor and affirm its white capital, where racism has become more prevalent, and as O'Toole notes, the words economic migrant are often used as a term of abuse. The roots of this duplicity can be traced back to Ireland's relationship with empire and whiteness, most evident with regard to slavery and Ireland's relationship to African America. Locals largely supported political leader and independence activist Daniel O'Connell's abolitionist stance, and Irish immigrants in America largely rejected it in an effort to essentially become white, as Noel Ignatieff and others have discussed. Incidentally, it was Daniel O'Connell who welcomed Frederick Douglass in Cork when he arrived for a speaking tour of Ireland during the famine. 1993 TV series Queen explores the divisions of racialization in America and the difficulties faced by a young Irish African-American woman, played by Halle Berry, in the slavery-era South, who does not fit into either side of the established black-white binary, and of course was Alex Haley's memoir of his Irish roots. Queen positions Irishness as part of the white patriarchal hegemony of the slavery era. This work raises interesting questions regarding the term Black Irish and draws links to Ireland's parallel historical positions as both subject and agent of empire, or esclave maître, as Quesada puts it. Diane Negra has described the dichotomy underlying Irish identity as a signifier of both an enriched whiteness and an oppressed off-whiteness. Hence Jimmy's famous line in 1991's The Commitments, where he, a white working-class musician from Dublin, inspired by soul music, collapses colonial discourses of oppression to equate his position with James Brown's, and declares to his confused friends, quote, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." Yet this film, as with most of its time, absences the physically black Irish. But recent years have seen a significant change. In 2007, Pavel Barta referred to an explosion in Irish horror films. Quote, "From Stephen Bradley's Boy Eats Girl to Billy O'Brien's Isolation, Indigenous cinema has a newfound appetite to shock." These films were shocking not just for their horror themes and genre conventions, but also for their casting, as both feature mixed-race female protagonists. Isolation features Mary, played by Irish-Ethiopian actress Ruth Negga, and Jessica is the protagonist of Boy Eats Girl, and is played by Irish-Zambian actress Samantha Mumba. And here's the start of the trailer for Boy Eats Girl.
Try not to be too desperate, I promise.
I'm going now. my crypt. Missionaries in distant places were brought back from the dead.
Oh, thank God.
The book was damaged. Those who were resurrected eat the living flesh of others.
How are you feeling, by the way? Nauseous? Headaches, maybe?
No, I'm just really hungry, that's all.
So as you can tell, it's a rom-com. The horror film plays on the terror of the unimaginable, on revulsion, fears, insecurities, and uncertainties. Yet it also often challenges the dominant ideologies of the hegemony. For example, in both Isolation and Boy Eats Girl, the mixed-race figure is positioned as irrefutably Irish and is responsible for saving the nation. In Boy Eats Girl, a budding romance between teenagers Jessica, played by Samantha Mumba, and Nathan, played by David Leon, is disturbed by a zombie attack. Nathan fears that Jessica has stopped loving him and so commits suicide, which incidentally the censor tried to remove from the film. His mother uses voodoo to bring him back from the dead, and as he feeds, he produces a zombie army. Rural realist horror Isolation's protagonists are also a young couple. Mary, played by Ruth Negga, and Jamie, played by Sean Harris, run away together after her family reject him. He's a traveller, another of the marginalised Irish, but despite being white, he's positioned as being of a lower status than non-whites. And in this scene, Mary gets to know the farmer whose land they're staying on. And it begins with her partner, Jamie.
Looks clean enough. I'll push a bit more disinfectant on it. Might sting a bit. You should go to the hospital.
No, thanks. I have to wait for the vet. I'll go back with her.
What was it, dear?
Yeah, I took over from my old man. What about your own family?
There are 6 of us. I'm the second. 3 brothers, 2 sisters. It's close. Close family.
And how does it go with the traveller boy? Do they like him? Are you popular with his crowd? You're just in the way of a romantic break down a lane on a bog farm.
If my brothers find us, they'll kill him.
So experimentations on this desolate farm lead to calves with overgrown organs and vampire-like teeth, as well as a new species of bloodthirsty genetic mutations. Here the abject invades and contaminates the rural. First by contaminating Jamie's body, and then by impregnating Mary, who becomes pregnant with this child, which is both alien, human, mixed race, and so on. And thus threatens the social body, mimicking national fears regarding racial mixing. Both films centralize in parallel fears of invasion, alien-human amalgamation, and miscegenation. In Isolation and Boy Eats Girl, the mixed-race character is the instigator of the disorder which leads to the ultimate horror, and yet is also the only character with the hybrid cultural competence to restore order. As Mary Beltran notes, the traditionally perceived monstrosity of the mixed-race body, along with the recent shifts towards celebrating mixed beauty and mixed heritage, make the screen character a contradictory figure. Quote, while subtly reinforcing notions of white centrism, the new ethnically ambiguous protagonist embodies concerns regarding ethnicity and race relations with respect to the nation's burgeoning cultural creolization and multi-ethnic population, end quote. The contemporary mixed-race character both symbolizes the breakdown of the normative family unit, alienation and so on, and exhibits a cultural mastery over all racialized worlds, as Beltran put it. Their mixed identity is still somewhat tragic, but it is their hybridity which allows them to negotiate difficulties with ease, sometimes making them more valuable than the white hero. It is notable that Irish visual culture, following mainstream trends, predominantly represents blackness as masculine and mixedness as feminine, associating mixedness with seductive, assimilable beauty and blackness with potential threats to the phallus, although there are exceptions. The 1998 melodrama The Nephew begins with a bagly dressed, dreadlocked, mixed-race man arriving by boat at Innisdara, a small island off the Irish mainland. Chad Egan Washington, played by Hill Harper, is the son of an Irish emigrant who married an African American. He's come home to scatter his mother's ashes and discover his Irish heritage. Chad attends a wake and is told that it is tradition for the last person to arrive on the island to sing a song. He may know that this is a con aimed at making fun of the foreigner, but he plays along. He sings in Gaelic, first as a lone sean-nós singer, but soon joined by the others. As he sings, a low-angle panning shot encircles him and cross-cuts to faces of locals, framing him as part of the community, emphasizing his position as Irish. This shift reduces his spectacularization in other parts of the film, but becomes fantastical as the camera detaches itself from ground-level events and films the scene from above, implying his mother's point of view. And I'd like to show you some of that scene now.
Is give it one road, my land. Your mission, it's our world. You are the so
But I'm Irish.
There you go, Chad.
Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Might have been herself singing. Right.
Yeah.
And Phil Aruno means come back, my love, so it's very significant of his mother's presence in the room. In 2005, an intensification of the racialization of Irishness occurred through the Citizenship Act. This law aimed at preventing what was known as citizenship tourism, women coming to Ireland to have babies and gain citizenship, which was sort of hysterically hyped into a massive problem, even though it actually wasn't. So the Citizenship Act denies automatic citizenship to children born in Ireland unless they have an Irish parent or grandparent. So we now have a problem in Ireland with kids who are maturing, going to college, and being told that they have to pay fees, the same fees as an African student, for example, because they don't have Irish citizenship, even though they've grown up in Ireland and that's their identity. Even though Chad himself is not Irish born or bred, he has Irish citizenship through the Citizenship Act. He is part of this body of Irishness as it's understood post-2005. And this scene emphasises his spiritual connectedness to an ancient matriarchal Gaelic Irishness. Still, while the film evades references to overt racism, he is repeatedly different from the others. You see there's a kind of mocking laugh when he says that he's Irish, which is quite common in Irish films. He's often labelled as the Yank, or other terms are used to refer to his difference and cover over the racial difference somewhat by suggesting it's a cultural difference. And his interracial romance with local girl Aisling causes consternation in the community. Questions of nationalism and the mixed-race Irish are illuminated quite differently in the 2013 Irish language film Aisling Geall, Bright Vision. The documentary follows the experiences of Shahira Apraku, an aspiring sean-nós singer growing up in the Gaeltacht, the Irish-speaking region of West Ireland, which is associated with a sort of indigenous Irishness and ancient Irishness, which has been essentially lost by the rest of the country. So it's seen as the harbour of real Ireland. The documentary follows, as the child of German and Zambian parents, she's both a symbol of the new Ireland, of immigration, cosmopolitanism and change, as well as being a signifier of ancient Ireland's cultural traditions in the rural present. And I'll show you a very brief clip. So these films explore music as a way of moving beyond identity categories that have created divisions in society and as a way of achieving full border crossing and real forms of integration. Through learning and performing unaccompanied songs whose poetry speaks of long forgotten customs, she becomes a torch carrier, ready to share and spread this bright vision with others. There are flaws in the film, such as its Celtic tiger style of representing Ireland as universally sunny, tolerant and colourblind, and the fact that Shahira is seemingly singled out to support this representation. Still, it reveals the potential for accepting difference and expanding concepts of the national. In The Nephew, Chad has to suppress his African-American identity to become Irish. As you might have noticed in the two pictures there, the second picture, he's shaved off his dreadlocks, he starts to wear his mother's clothes, he doesn't refer to his father. Whereas in Aisling Geall, there's more freedom for Shahira to be German, Zambian and Irish, to speak multiple languages, to be a part of these different communities and full whole at the same time, although she is only shown performing Irish artistic traditions. In Aisling Geall, inclusion is based on national belonging rather than kinship, so it moves away from the blood ties of the Citizenship Act's focus. And following on from Miri Song's comments that mixed people are not black or white but both, as well as Maria Root's advocation of the right to change one's affiliation over time, personal choice is here centralised with regard to one's ethnic identification. Visual culture is intimately tied to society and can perform an important social role for spectators, revealing new truths, new social partners and new challenges. And there's a selection of stills from various films, Moore Street Masala, an Irish short film, which is also available online, a take on a Bollywood musical set in Dublin's most multicultural street, probably in the inner city, Moore Street. A kind of blaxploitation Irish film, again available online. New Boy, which was nominated for an Oscar. Another short film about a boy from Africa who arrives in an Irish school. I think he's from Congo. Kavi Lakeen, where a traveller girl finds that the only place in Ireland where she is accepted is, in fact, on Moore Street, because the immigrants don't recognise a difference between her and other white Irish people, whereas white Irish people reject her as a traveller and therefore not fully acceptable as Irish. And then I've got a still of popular Irish rapper, spoken word poet, jazz performer, Reggie Snow, who performs under various aliases, who was also on the earlier slide. He's been repeatedly mentioned in particularly English music magazines. So you saw the image of him with the Luck of the Irish beside his picture. By presenting former others as identifiable, rounded characters, film and television enable audiences to move beyond social borders and identify with characters despite differences. Thus, the work of my book, The Black Irish on Screen, aims to contribute to the global critical mixed-race studies debates and illuminate the potential for new visualizations of Irish identity based on, to paraphrase Geraldine Meany, new cultural maps and the possibility of a very different Ireland in the world. I hope that by uncovering, deconstructing and critiquing these representations, we may begin to open up new spaces for filmmakers and filmmaking practice, new visualizations of mixed-race characters, and new understandings of race and racism in Ireland and beyond. Thank you very much.